Hi, my name is Maceo Lewis, and welcome to ML Sports Talk. Today I'm going to talk about this UNLV Idaho State game. I attended it. It was at Allegiant Stadium today. Kickoff time was 1 p.m. It ended at about 5 p.m. ish. Look, I'm not an alumni of either school, either UNLV or Idaho State, not part of the Mountain West or the Big Sky Conference. And these aren't like playoff teams or anything like that. So why did I go to this game? Well, I went to this game because number one, they were playing at Allegiant Stadium. I like Allegiant Stadium. I look for any excuse to come to Vegas and to attend Allegiant Stadium. Just an example, like a couple years ago, I went to Allegiant Stadium to watch the Washington-Oregon playoff game. Well, not the playoff game, it was the Pac-12 championship game when it was a Pac-12 back then. Um, and of course, I come and watch the Raider games. So that's why I came out here. And also, I was able to get some cheap front row seats. I mean, the tickets were about like $100, and I literally was sitting at the very front row in the clubhouse seat. So I'm at the front row, literally the closest seat you can get to the field without actually being on the field. There was like special access to one of the lounges. I forgot the name of the lounge. It started with a T. It might be called the Tiki Lounge or something like that. But anyway, the food wasn't included, but there was like a less wait time to get to the a food line. They had different variety options. I happened to get a veggie pizza, fries, and like a chicken nachos, but they had other options there too. They had like a bar or two, but I didn't drink any alcohol or anything like that. And they have access to bathrooms and stuff. So there's like a lot of options there, and you can sit at tables and eat at the table in like a shaded area. So it was a cool experience. So I wouldn't mind getting club seats next time I go to Allegiant Stadium. Now, heading into the game, I didn't know much about these teams, but I did check out the spread, and the spread was 30 and a half in favor of UNLV. So UNLV was supposed to blow this team out, right? So I thought it was going to be a blowout. And I'm looking at the teams that warm up, and UNLV, they look like they're all pumped up. This is their first game. Their first game's at home. They're playing at Allegiant Stadium, a big stadium for them. And Idaho State, they kind of looked like they were like a bunch of high school kids on the field. When you look at it at first glance, right? The attendance was terrible. I mean, the crowd was like less than one. I'm not joking. It was less than one third capacity. I am not joking on that. I was looking out in the stadium, and like all the top rows were not filled up. The middle rows were not filled up. Now most of the bottom rows were filled up, and I guess it's the 100 section. Um, my guess is that they didn't sell tickets for those first two rows. Either that, or they people who bought tickets for them, they just told me, look, go sit down and lower. You're getting a good deal. They just wanted to make it look like it was kind of filled up. And for the most part, the 100 sections were filled up, but there was still like some empty seats. Like for instance, like I'm at the front row. Most of the row was filled up, but there was like two seats next to me to my right that were completely empty throughout the whole game. So yeah, the attendance was not that good. It was mostly like a sea of red, mostly UNLV fans, but there were like some Idaho State fans as well. So look, there's a few takeaways from this game. Aside from the fact that these teams aren't going to be playoff teams. I mean, look, even a blind squirrel could have told you that, right? But there's some other things I noticed about this game. I mean, my take first of all is that although UNLV won the game, I thought Idaho State had a moral victory. Because look, they're coming from the Big Sky Conference, right? I mean, not known for having like the best teams or anything like that. I mean, yeah, UNLV is the Midwest, the Mountain West. The Mountain West isn't like the SEC or the Big Ten, but still, I would say that they're probably like that third tier conference, right under like the Big 12s and the ACCs, but they're higher than the Big Sky. Idaho State was 30 and a half points. Again, they're on the road. They're going into the home territory, Allegiant Stadium, and they came out and they punched UNLV in the mouth. Look, Idaho State jumped up like 10-0. They were up three from when they scored on the first possession, the field goal. UNLV drove the ball down the field, but then when the quarterback Orji, yes, that's his name, Orji, spelled different from the other Orji, right? It's spelled Orji. He fumbles the ball into the end zone, so they don't score, and then uh, uh, pun unintended, right? And Idaho State gets the ball back, and then they drive down the field and score a touchdown. So there were multiple lead changes. Like this game wasn't over in the first quarter. Idaho State, let me just run by the scores right quick. I'm going to glance through the scoring changes in this game. So Idaho State was up 10-0. Then UNLV jumped up 14-10. Idaho State then jumped up 17-14. UNLV jumped up 21-17. Then the score was tied at 24. Then Idaho State jumped up 31-24 with 13:40 left in the fourth quarter. And that was the last time the Idaho State led, was in the fourth quarter. And then the score was tied 31, and then finally UNLV went up 38-31 and eventually ran the clock out and won the game. So kudos to Idaho State. The spread was 30.5 points, almost 31 points, and UNLV didn't even score 31 points until the fourth quarter. They only scored 38 points in the game at all. There were some players that popped out to me from both teams. Let me start with Idaho State. The two players that caught my eye the most was, at first it was the wide receiver number 0, Damian Morgan. He's the one where on the first possession, Idaho State had some kind of penalty, so it became first and long, like first and 21. And then the quarterback threw the pass, and then Morgan made like this great diving catch to get the first down. And then they eventually drove down the field and got the field goal. But the player that stuck out most to me was the wide receiver, number 14. His name is Michael Shulikov. Morgan's 5'10". He kind of reminds me of like a Steve Smith. I'm not saying he's going to be as great as Steve Smith, but he kind of reminds me of like a Steve Smith. Michael Shulikov is 6'6". And he had like at least 2 like you got Moss catches. If you ever seen NFL, like those highlight shows, they say you got Moss, and they have the receiver catching the ball over the defenders. He had a couple of those catches in this game. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him on one of those you got Mosses if they're still doing that. He had one of those catches during the second possession when they were going down and they scored the touchdown. So yeah, those are 2 players that stuck out to me on Idaho State. And on UNLV, what I noticed immediately was they have 2 quarterbacks playing the game. Now, the expression, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, right? Well, in this game, they had 2 quarterbacks. They started with Orji, and then they rotated in Calandria, number 10, and they were like rotate throughout the game. I mean, personally, just from what I saw, I thought Calandria played the better game. Calandria's strength is his ability to scramble in and out outside the pocket. There were several times where there was like 3rd and long, and he would use his scrambling ability to keep the drive going, get the first down. He made like some good passes too. He made like 50, 60-yard passes on the field as well. Orji, he had that turnover in the first drive, and yeah, he had like a rushing touchdown late in the game. But I was just more impressed with Calandria, and I didn't think that UNLV was going to win the game without Calandria. Speaking of who was there that was important to win the game, was running back Jaden Thomas. He had 3 touchdowns. He had like a couple of touchdowns where he was breaking tackles, and then he had this open field where it's one of those plays where he was running and sprinting and no one can catch him. So he has great breakaway speed. But again, this is against the Big Sky Conference. I mean, let's see if he and the other players measure up to a Big Ten team named UCLA that's coming into town in a couple weeks. Look, I went to UCLA for law school, so if I was going to go to the game, I'd probably root for UCLA, but I can't go to the game, unfortunately. At least for now, I'm not going to go to the game because the game's at 5 p.m. on Saturday. My wife and I, we have tickets to see the Sparks on Sunday. I believe the game's at 3 p.m. So theoretically, I could go, but the problem is I'd have to leave really early in the morning to make it back to LA to watch the game, and I'd just be number one. Even if I could get up, I'd just be too tired by the end of the day to watch the other game. So most likely, I'm not going to be able to make that game. But I expect Allegiant Stadium to be swarmed in light blue and gold jerseys because the turnout at this game for UNLV was not that great. So especially since UCLA is only like a 4-hour drive away, I expect the alumni to come out, especially with UCLA playing the Big Ten right now. Most of the games are like in the Midwest or very far away from LA. Las Vegas is relatively close. And I do expect UCLA to win that game, and pretty big. Now, UNLV, again, it's not one of those teams that's going to be a playoff team. But if they could somehow, by some miracle, beat UCLA and go into that Boise State game 6-0, UNLV is like one of those teams where they won't make the playoffs, but they could help a team like Boise State get back into the playoffs. Like, I mean, assuming Boise State's able to beat Notre Dame, which, I mean, I don't know about that. But, Boise State's only shot is if they're undefeated, they beat Notre Dame, and they beat, every team in their conference. I mean, that's the kind of resume that a committee will look at to get them into the playoffs. And that'll, like, get them in the ranked at a certain position where they're guaranteed a spot, right? So I see UNLV as one of those teams that could help Boise State's resume, but I don't see UNLV being a playoff team. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the game. It's the start of the college football season. Looking forward to it. I'll give more of my thoughts and impressions of all the games I watch, especially if I attend any more college games. I'll definitely give my thoughts about those. So anyway, subscribe to ML Sports Talk. My name is Maceo Lewis, and until next time.